My name is Patrick Halstead, and we do this webinar. We try to do this webinar about 40 times a year. With me today, I have Kirby Alfafara, and she's going to do the demo. Before we get started, I have a quick question to every one of you. We have been doing different techniques here for the last, I want to say, we've been doing this technique for showing SMS text last year. We started doing this, and I wanted to quickly ask everyone how you do notifications today. So, obviously, we have forms in SharePoint. We do workflows, and I'm guessing that most of you, it looks like we got some response now, so that's good. Thanks for, this is a multiple choice question here. Are you using SharePoint alerts? That's an old method where it just automatically emails everyone when there's a new item in the library. SharePoint workflow is I think the previous way of doing things. We had SharePoint Designer. We create a workflow in SharePoint Designer that notified people, and then the new way of doing things is with Microsoft Flow with email. We've done with that as well. And then there are also some customers that may be using our DBXL plugin to send email from a server, like a database server. And then finally, you might have some forms that have no notification. So, so thanks for playing. It looks like most of you are still using that second option. About over 60% are on the second one. And then we have a little less than 20 on the first one, SharePoint alerts. And we have over 20% on Flow. That's great to see. And we have a couple people on Qdabra emails as well. Thanks for the quick survey here. I'm going to close this out. And today, really, we look at this. We look at this new world we live in with phones, and email is kind of out of place these days. And we're going to talk about a new approach for notifying users that has some really cool advantages. And I'm kind of surprised that we didn't discover this last year when we did SMS text notifications last year to verify people when they opened up a form. But we didn't use SMS text as a notification mechanism. We use email. And so the main benefit today is using SMS notifications instead of email, so to streamline the process. And there's a couple big benefits to that. One is that you don't have to authenticate the user if they access it quickly. And the other big benefit is that you're not flooding people with emails. So without any further ado, I think I want to quickly switch to Kirby, and we're going to do the quick demo, and then we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about the technique. What we're going to show, well, let's just do it. So Kirby, are you ready?
Okay, ready.
I'm going to make you presenter.
Okay. Okay, so can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, so for the demo, we're going to use the expense report form. So here I am in the expense report library, and I'm going to create a new form. So let's wait for a few seconds for it to load. And so this expense report form will go through 2 levels of approvals. So first is for the manager, and the second one is for the accounting manager. So for the purpose of this demo, I made myself both the manager and the accounting manager. So for example, I'm going to buy a new phone for customer calls. And let's say I'm going to buy a new iPhone, and merchant, and then let's put amount, and then submit. So once it's submitting, it will render a PDF copy of the form.
a very inexpensive iPhone, you must have a great exchange rate.
So here's the PDF form, and then let's just wait for the submission to finish. And then here I have, where is it? Let me just open. Okay, so this is a tool where I can share my phone screen. Let me just configure this. Okay, so here's my screen. So here's what I'm seeing in my phone. And then as you can see, I received a text message, which is from Twilio, and then it says that a new expense report has been created, and it's already ready for the manager's approval. So I'm going to click that form link, and this will redirect me to the form that was submitted. And then let's just wait for a few seconds. And then as you can see, the form is asking me to provide the confirmation code that is sent to my phone. And here we have the confirmation code. It says it's 8024. Okay, so the reason why we saw the confirmation window is because we clicked the link, the form link in the text message 30 seconds after the text message is sent. So yeah, so here's the form. So it says here that it's pending for manager's approval, and here you can see the details of the form, and then as well as the expense items. And here it allows us to approve the form and add some comments. So let's say that's a great deal and approve it. So once that's submitted, it will send us another text message that is sent to the accounts manager. So here it is. So since we clicked on the link within the 30-second period, it won't ask us to provide the code, or it won't send us the verification code to open the form. So here's the form for the AP manager's approval. It says here that the form status is already approved. And here below, you can see that there's an approval section where you can see the details of the time and the comment that the manager provided earlier. So here we're going to approve again the form as the accounting manager. And then once that's done, we can now refresh the form, and it will show us that the form status is now changed to paid. And all of the details here are also included, all the approvals history. And then I would also like to show you that, for example, if the manager clicks on an old link or mistakenly clicks on an old text message from Twilio. So let's click on the first form link. So the form will not allow the manager to approve or reject again the form. So it will show a message like this. Okay, so there's a simple bug there. So it should show that the form is no longer is not can no longer be approved. But yeah, because it's already paid, so it shows all the info here now.
So Kirby, while
Okay.
we're going to go through and talk about this, but can you actually open up another form real quick from new and submit it, and then we'll wait longer than the 30-second timeout to show them the text code, and we'll switch to my screen first though to talk about what we just saw and the benefits.
Okay.
So we'll get that ready, and then I think you can go ahead and just hit submit, and then we'll just come back to your screen here when I'm done with the presentation. So I'm just going to take over the presenter again here. Okay, thank you very much. That was a quick demo there, and Kirby is responsible for all the good work that's going into this webinar today. So round of applause for Kirby. I want to just quickly talk about what we saw. And the first thing we saw was the user getting a text notification saying that there was a form ready for them to fill out. And here what we're doing is we're saying goodbye to email and hello to a quicker, more secure way of actually opening and approving forms. Now, and the really breakthrough here is realizing that phones have greater security now, so that if you text somebody and you give them a 30-second or a 60-second timeout, it's very unlikely that they could forward that text to somebody else and have the other person open it within that time frame. So by taking advantage of this timeout, we're able to just assume it's them, and that actually works. The goal here is to streamline the processing so that there are less things they have to do to approve something. And we can do this using an SMS text provider like Twilio and a users list in SharePoint. So the users list is really critical because the users list stores the information on who is accessing the form, and they can be external people along with their cell phones. So you don't have to have a login for every single user in your list. Those users can truly be outside of your organization, but you do have to have them in your list, and that means you have to add them to your list. And so we have a couple sample forms that allow you to manage your users. You need to add them, then they get a text message, and then they confirm their phone number. And we've showed this before in several webinars. In fact, just last week, we also showed this technique. So I'm not going to go into this in detail, but it's very easy to create a two-form process for adding users and having them activate relatively automatically using forms. And then the third process is any process that can use that users list now, and that's what we showed today was the expense report. When we did this last week, we showed a different form. I think we showed the survey. So we're using a Twilio API. Twilio is a web sort of SMS text as a service web provider out there, and they've been around for many years. It's fairly cheap. You can actually create a Twilio account for nothing. You don't have to put a credit card in, and it'll give you 1,000 texts for free. And then after that, it's literally 1 or 2 cents per text, depending on your plan. So it's really inexpensive. I think we spent a total of $20 last year on all of our texts. So it wasn't, and we're not sending hundreds of thousands, but we're definitely in the 10,000 range. And then you have to add rules to your forms. So you have to add data connections for the Twilio secondary data source. You've got to add rules on load and on submit to look up the phone number of the user and then text them or send them a notification when they hit submit. So that's the first step. The second step is then really highlighting this mobile form factor. So you saw her curvy demo on her desktop, and then she switched to her phone. It looked different, and we have laid out the form differently. Now, there's a couple techniques here in FormsViewer that are pretty cool. One is that you can use a CSS. So you know that on the desktop, she's using a cascading style sheet to make the design, the UI design responsive, so that if the browser is shrunk or expanded, the window expands, the form expands and collapses based on the size of the window. We're also using a technique to switch to views so that they see a different layout for the mobile. And you can see that the layout on the right here is definitely different from when she's filling out the form on the left. And we're doing that by identifying the user agent of the device that's accessing the form. And if it's a mobile, a MOBI, M-O-B-I is in the user agent string for the HTML of the browser, then we just assume it's mobile and we switch to that view on the right. So that's one technique. We've talked about this in our previous webinars. It's pretty simple to implement. You can look at last week's webinar or the one last summer, actually 2 summers ago. You're going to use QRules and you're going to use CSS, and you're going to switch the view. So it's pretty simple stuff, and we've got a lot of samples with these webinars that will show you how to do that. We're also doing training next week, and we will have one of our labs will show how to add a CSS to your forms. The third thing that we did was we showed this timeout. So in the case, in Kirby's case, she's actually in Manila, so she's got a 90-second timeout because of we were worried about the latency of the connection. So, but I would suggest 30 seconds. That's what we're putting in our slide deck here. So if it's longer than that timeout, then she'll get the text code, right? So people have 2 options here. They can either get the text and click on the link if they're not busy, approve the form. They don't have to sign in. They don't have to put a text code in because it's so quick, and we know the text went to their phone because of the sign-in process. The second approach is, well, they're busy, they're talking to somebody, they can't click on the link, so they wait longer than the timeout, in which case they get a text code when the form opens. We'll see that. Actually, Kirby, let's show them that right now. Do you have are you ready?
Patrick.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. So let's show this text code because we didn't see that we were trying to show that in the webinar, but you were just too quick. So you've just submitted the form. Okay, there's the link for the second one. New expense report. And we've waited longer than 90 seconds or whatever it is that we have in the form right now.
Yeah.
And one thing that might be kind of interesting is to show them in the form logic where that calculation is, because I know that's a pretty simple calculation. Okay, great, you got the code. Or did you?
Yeah, it will now send the message.
Oh, there it is. Even fast for the Philippines.
283.
Put something different in just to show them that it is trying. Yeah, okay, that's definitely not what you got. Okay, incorrect. Okay, you're getting the validation there. That's great.
Yep.
And we also have a timeout. Okay, that was so fast we didn't even see you type it in. But there is a timeout for the code too. It's like 60 seconds. Can you show the form in the designer and show them where that calculation is?
Okay, sure. I'm just gonna open the form.
There's a mobile view.
Yep. And so here is how the form creates the approval code, and it triggers the SMS, and then So here is the code timeout. So this is how I add the settings to how many seconds the timeout will be. So by using the add settings.
60, not 90.
Yeah, 60, okay. Sorry. Yeah.
And then you check, where do you check it?
So, sorry, there's so many rules here. So this one, so it will show the info if accessing within 30 seconds after submit. So it will not prompt if the timeout is greater than the time
and
now.
that's because you've added 60 seconds. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I got it. Okay, yeah. That's great. Okay, thanks, Kirby, for coming back and showing us that second demo there. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the slides. Okay, so the benefit of this is that it provides this completely hassle-free way of accessing and approving something without a login. So there's no typing in your password. There's no typing in a code because it's so fast. And I think we can make this assumption in today's world that somebody could, I suppose, see the text message right away and then copy it and send it to their friend to approve it. But the chance of that happening within 30 seconds is probably pretty small. So in fact, I think it's 0. And this is really obviously we're not talking about super secure, Part 11 compliant processes here. Although one could claim that this is more secure than the current systems of using certificates and digital signatures because they're using their phone, and the phone is in fact a biometric device now. They have to log into their phone to get the text, and I think that you see a lot of, with litigation and Justice Department things these days, you do see phone numbers coming into play quite a bit. I don't know all the legal statutes on phone numbers and how cell phones can be used in a court of law, but I do know that these phones are so secure these days that I think it's very difficult for someone to hack your phone. It does happen, but it's very unlikely that they could hack it and then within that 30-second window, impersonate you to do something on your behalf. And in this case, simple, expense report form, who cares, right? But if there was another process, like a more sensitive process, like approving something that could affect lots of people's lives, then you definitely you'd want to maybe force the code so that you knew it was them and not use this 30-second quick access. So it's easy to do. Once again, we're using the Twilio API to text, and when they get the text, so we set the timeout on submit, and we set it to be now plus 60 seconds or 30 seconds, like you saw with Kirby's machine. And then when they open the form, it checks to see if the current time is greater than that. And if it is, then it presents the pop-up. If it's less, then it just lets them through. And that's really the benefit here of this approach, is that you can skip this if they're fast. They don't have to be fast. They don't have to feel like they're under the gun. They can just do the four-digit code. Four-digit code is much easier than a password, and we know we're only sending it to them, so there's restricted access. So that's very good. And we did this, of course, in last year's August webinar, so you can take a look at this again. This has been a really popular pattern that we were inspired by DCS last year, and I want to thank Peter and Chris for being here and for giving us that inspiration on they're using this for a process that I think is relatively sensitive. I won't say anything more about it. So the last step is that if they go back to the link, like let's say they wait a year, a month or something, and then they're looking at their phone and they look at the text message and they're wondering, well, what was this? And they click on it. So then we're saying the form was already approved. So we're actually checking, and we had a little bit of a bug in the previous demo, but this is where I saw it was working earlier, and basically we're just checking to see if the form was approved or rejected before, and if it was, we give them a pop-up. Now we'd obviously want to say you already approved or rejected and be specific about it, but the idea here is that you have a error handling, so that if they go back to it, you're not allowing them to do anything more with it. So it's basically foolproofing the form if they mistakenly click on it. So that's all there is to it. Now we're using an overlay for that, and actually I don't know if we're using an overlay or not, but if you want to use an overlay, the webinar on July 13th of 2017 actually shows how to do that. We have a link to that in the slide deck. So just wanted to shout out that last week we also covered mobile enabled forms, and we showed how to make them look good. We showed how to do glass signatures. We did talk about the SMS text code, and we also showed how to scale images captured from a camera, a high definition camera, and the pop-ups as well. So if you're interested in that, go to our webinars page and take a look at it. It's in the past webinars, and we have a package that we made available. We are here to help you. If you have any questions, you want to get this implemented, please don't hesitate to contact us. We'd love to get you going and give you a free hour of our time to help you get this implemented. It isn't that hard to do. So you have to set up that users list. You have to set up 2 forms to manage that users list, and then you send out an authorization to a bunch of people you want to take part of the process, and then they have to sign up and activate their accounts, their cell phones using SMS text. So there's that step, which we talked about in the previous webinars, which we're not going to demo today. And that takes, a few minutes to set that up and then test it. All of our forms these days have dynamic data connections in them, so they're pretty easy to move to your site. If you've got 365 and you want to set up something similar, literally it would probably take less than an hour to get it going. And anyway, let us know if we can help. We are demoing FormsViewer pretty much. We did, I think 30 webinars last year, so 27, and we're going to try to do 40 this year. But last year we probably, 15 of those webinars had FormsViewer in them. We're doing a lot of Power Apps, a lot of Power BI, and a lot of Flow webinars these days too. We were recognized by Microsoft as being a Power App expert in the field at the MS Ignite conference. We're meeting with them again next week to talk about new Power App features coming online. Power Apps is definitely an option for you if you've got new processes you need to automate and you want to create it from scratch. Power Apps is Microsoft's roadmap for the future. It's going to have the best mobile experience because it's a rich client, but it's going to cost you some time and you're going to have to pay Microsoft some fees. So the alternative, which we started working on 5 years ago, is FormsViewer, and this is an app that uses your existing InfoPath forms as is, and it upgrades them to a new experience. So you don't change your XSN at all. It simply replaces the InfoPath form services so that you can be assured that if Microsoft pulls the plug on that on online, you don't have to worry because you're not using it anymore. So it future-proofs your form, but it also gives you these new features like the ability to use SMS text to notify people and to get their approvals. And they don't have to be logged in to the site. So you can save on license fees. And you get our support team, which is alone is worth the zero cost of actually installing the app. If you do install the app, we give you 3 months for free, and then it's like per tenant, it's $95 a month or less if you do a year in advance. So it's pretty cheap. Any questions for us today? I know we went a little longer than normal. Thank you for all being here. Seems like we haven't lost really, we only lost one person, I think. But I want to open the floor up to questions if you've got them. We are going to be sending out the package and the link to the video later today. And we have the training coming up next week, don't forget. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it's from, was it 10 a.m. Eastern to noon, 12:30 or so Eastern. And if you have already registered, thank you. We have a pretty busy class next week. I think we're close to our max, so we might have 1 or 2 slots left. If you're interested and you haven't registered, just go to qdabra.com, click on education, and there should be a page there where you can register. It doesn't look like there are any questions at the moment, so I want to wish you all a happy day, and hope to see you here next week. Take care.